Start on time. Ah, we are. There's some kind of strange noise here. Let me just put everybody on mute until there's some speaking. Okay, great. Glad to see you all here. I am literally celebrating the fire. I don't usually wear yellow, and I bought a yellow sweater thinking, just going to do it. I'm going to dive into yellow as fully as I possibly can. So we are now just starting the fire, looking at the high level of fire. And, before we dive into all these weeks, I just kind of sit with everything and kind of intuit where we need to go. And one of the things that came to me for this group was, instead of always focusing on kind of the downsides of fire, which I know that, some people really don't look forward to the fire because there's so much there. And it's like, oh, I know I'm not in work-life balance. Oh, I know I'm really stressed. What I had the inclination to do with fire is to make it all about joy. Joy, empowerment, confidence. It's like all the things that we are sparked towards and radiating, we have within us in some degree. I'm going to do that even more. I'm really going to have not to say that we don't touch on topics that are, challenging or growing. It's just that I want to give a little bit more oomph to the fire in the way of really exploring the joy of fire, because I think oftentimes we miss that piece of fire because it seems like it can get out of control. So let us dive in. You do all have pen and paper with you? Super. Let's dive in with an activity to get us warmed up to fire. And I talk about this activity all the time, but much to my surprise, I'm doing an in-person course, and I have found that even though these people have known about this activity, that people haven't been doing it or they haven't started to reach out to it. So I really wanted to walk people through it because I think it's very powerful. And that's what I even did with my in-person group. And they were like, oh my goodness, I got so much information about myself. So here's what we're going to do. A very quick energy inventory exercise. And we're going to do this in a little bit of a different way. I'm just bringing in Kelly, bringing in Elizabeth so that they can join us. This is good timing. And actually, before we do this, let me just open up the floor for anybody to say anything about the flow, about your month, about how you're feeling. Let's just do kind of a general check-in too about kind of where you're at with everything. We don't need for everybody to check in if you don't want to, but is there anybody that would like to say anything and just kind of check in overall? Tracy.
Okay. Well, my fire decided just before the month to take quite the hit. Lynn and Michelle came up to visit, which was just so much fun. But the day they left, I got so sick.
Oh, no.
I got this stomach bug, and today is really the first day that I feel like human. I got up, I took a shower, I brushed my teeth, I washed my hair. I mean, not quite that bad. But it was so interesting to watch the whole experience of just going, oh my goodness, I had just this beautiful 3 days with the two of them. And that night, I kind of just felt off. And then the next day I was like, sweetie, I am going back to bed. And then the next day was even worse, to where I was just, fever, and I had all these things going on. So I kind of burned really hot there. And now I'm ready to mellow out for the rest of the fire.
Tracy, were your symptoms more gut related or were they more fever?
They were more gut related. I really thought it was food poisoning, but I didn't have the relationship. I've had food poisoning before, and I know my relationship with the toilet when that happens, and it wasn't the same. I just don't know. I don't know what it was, where it came from, but it hit me hard, hard, hard. It was pretty amazing. Sorry, I had to pour tea.
Wow. So
yes.
This is really good, everybody. Tracy, you're modeling for us what is so important, and that is to look at things that happen to us in a very symbolic way. So Tracy, what does that mean anything for you? If you could interpret your symptoms and say, this says this about my fire, or maybe this is something for me to pay attention to. Is there something more metaphorical and less physical that you could say?
Well, I'm doing a whole lot of shadow work right now. Sorry, a little quavery. um, so it could be from that, and it could be, we also spent time out in the woods, which is just such a beautiful place for me. And we spent time with waterfalls, which was very flowy. But I think the first thing that came to mind is just the shadow work that I'm doing, that it really just had been digging some stuff up for me.
Yeah. And so often that does manifest in the physical, right?
Yeah.
We start to get symptoms and then we think it could be food poisoning or it could be processing, transformation. Yeah. Transformation could be going on. And sometimes that's a messy process and not always felt well. So, yeah, wow.
Yeah, it was wow. It still is. And today I told Mark, I said, I just have to let you know, I'm a little bit weepy today. So you get to deal with me not being, very perky. So run.
Yeah. Well, and Tracy, you're such a great journaler. You write, and a lot of your processing, from what I can tell, just from one of the whole detoxes that you went through, you did it through paper, through pen and paper. Did you journal a little bit on this just to see if there's anything that's coming through?
Not yet. Today is the first day I have felt human enough to do it. I did good to write my nightly little paragraph that I do every night. And it was, I even look at my handwriting from those 2 nights just going, what was that? And to take care of myself, because I'm the one who takes care of someone. And not last night, but the night before, I had these aches in my back so badly. And just the thought of going, okay, I know what to do. It's in there someplace. And to get up to do it. And finally, I was like, okay, I can tell Mark to take me to the ER, which I have never been in my whole life. Or I can get up, and I know there's some magnesium oil on the counter in the bathroom. And I went in and I was able to rub that around, and then I was able to fall back asleep. It really worked. It was a miracle for me that night. It doesn't always work that way, but that night it did.
A lot moving through you, for sure. Wow. I'm sorry you had to feel so uncomfortable for so long, because you're not normally in that state, right? And so when we are feeling good most of the time and then all of a sudden have that crashing feel, it can be quite intense. But it sounds like you did some good self-care.
It was hard. It was actually pretty hard to do, to know what to do. Now, talking about fasting, like you were talking about in the video this morning, I was like, well, I got some fasting in.
Yeah, you did.
And I love food.
So what you're mentioning too, I just wrote down a couple of words too. 2 words, digestion and intensity. So it might be worthwhile for you to be paying attention this month to all things that are going on with your gut, and not so much the lower gut and the pooping in the elimination part, but the upper gut, meaning the acid parts, if you think of the stomach as the altar, as I mentioned, the altar of our being, what's going on epigastric, higher level here. And even from the back of our throat onward starts the esophagus, right? So to be thinking about like this whole trajectory, what's going on for you within that sphere of digestion?
I'll watch. That's never been a place where I have had, where my awareness has come to, because I felt it was off. It feels pretty good there. But I'm open to watching for it.
Yeah, and let's all do it. Even the slight things that might happen to us, if we feel bloated after eating, or we feel acidic, we feel uncomfortable, just paying attention to some of those body cues. And the intensity too. There, with fire is beautiful in many ways, and it does bring the quality of intensity. And so with Tracy, with your symptoms, a lot of intensity coming forward. So intensity might be in work, in balance. Intensity might be in energy. It might be in digestion. So this word intensity, I'd like to use it rather than stress, because I feel like stress is kind of a worn out word. It's after a while, you kind of feel like, what does that really mean anyway? It's just so overused. So if we come from the place of intensity, and intensity can work for us sometimes. And then other times it's like, whew, we need to like down gear on this and go a little bit slower.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Tracy.
You're welcome.
Anybody else like to share? Oh, we do have Carol as well, and Jane. And this is, again, just like a general share, anything that you'd like to bring up. It could also be about the flow.
I still can't figure out how to put my picture up there, so I can't really wave. So I'm just going to blurt out and talk to you all.
Please.
Flow for me was weird, because I thought I'm extremely creative, which is weird because, I ran Halliburton's international training department. So there's some left brain part of me there somewhere, but I'm a little bit more right brain and a lot more creative, and did my deck and all this other stuff. But honestly, flow was very difficult for me. I had a hard time drinking water. Normally I don't. Thank heavens my deck is blue and my lake is blue, and I did okay that way. But emotionally, and I'm kind of worried about the fire in a little ways, because for me, post-accident, diabetic, the whole fire month's all about me, I think, or all of us really and truly. But it's a little scary, because I'm noticing that not only I'm a little older, I just turned 63, and as much as I don't want to believe I'm aging, I kind of am. And, I don't have the confidence. I don't have it's almost like I don't exactly know what I'm doing anymore. I love the color consulting. I love all of that. But at the same time, I'd really like to help other women in our boat, because, that's so important. But at any rate, back when my sister was alive, we took a chakra test, and it was hilarious because all my chakras were perfect. My life was great. I didn't really have a whole lot of problems. And my sister was a basket case. Well, she's gone now, and I really wish she was here, because if she could see my chakras now, she probably laughs up in heaven at me, because they're a little off now, I noticed. And so, anyway, I really love this workshop. That's very much helping me. So at any rate, I'm just a little, flow was good, but root was great for me. That really, I had no problem. But flow was a little more difficult than I thought it would be. And then fire is actually scaring me a little. But what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So I'll be all right. Anyway, thank you. I don't want to hog it all up here.
Thank you, Trish. That was such a great, beautiful, honest, authentic share. And I wrote down a couple of words from what you were saying about the emotional sphere, creativity, drinking water, confidence, questioning what you're doing, helping other women. An image I get listening to you is almost the sense of a phoenix rising, especially for women as they go through the change of life and shifting not only in body, but shifting in mind and emotions, that there is a redefinition. Right. And so like this recreation, it's almost like, that feeling of something scary almost feels like a rebirthing, it's kind of entering into something fresh again, and really leveraging that flow and bringing in the fire in their most beautiful ways, and how, really to see them as conduits and wonderful tools into that new space of creation.
I'm really looking forward to this, because it's a little difficult for me to see that. And so it'll be really nice to be able to go, oh, here's a different spin on it. It's like I'm excited, but at my age, I don't really have a whole lot of years to eke out a new career. So that part, I'm excited, but that makes it a little fearful. But anyway, thanks to all of you, because this will be great. A little scary, but great.
I have a lot of friends in your age range, including my husband. So I think of all of you as young and vital. And so it's interesting, right? How what we believe about ourselves and how we can resculpt and to continue to see. I just have to tell you, I just returned from a Terry Wall's conference. Terry Walls is a physician who had multiple sclerosis. Trish, I'm going to put you on mute for a sec here. Who had multiple sclerosis and then essentially helped herself tremendously go from being in a wheelchair to being able to walk. And there was a man there who is 61, and goodness, he looked like he was 45. And he said that when he was diagnosed with MS in 1999, he went on this quest. It's almost like it was his fire talking. He said, I was going to figure it out. I was going to figure out how to get healthy, how to get well. He did all these things. He did all that. And he's a musician. He plays the cello. And his eyes were going. His sensation was going. And this was in his 40s when he was developing MS. But through his fire, when he got up on stage, and now we can see, his fingers are fine. He was playing a song from Bohemian Rhapsody on the cello, full head of hair, vital. He said, I feel more vital at 61 than I did in my 40s. So what I would say to all of us that are concerned with kind of the burn of getting older and aging is that so many times, having an imprint about what we feel about it is so powerful. And the moment that we kind of step back from that and even say, well, maybe we can transform is such a key word for the fire, right? Just from the people that I've seen, it's almost like there can be a turn back. Let me just say that. And I witnessed it this past weekend with this man who played for us. And there was a professional musician there. And she says, I don't think people realize how he's playing. There was some kind of special arrangement that he was doing that requires additional talent just over and on top of playing the cello. So just to take a deep breath and know that we're constantly transforming ourselves. And some of you have these personal stories yourself. I know that. Tammy, you do. Anybody else want to check in? Thank you, Trish. That was beautiful. Anybody else feel like there's something that you'd like to say about fire? Tammy, please.
Hi, Dee.
Did you recognize me or someone else? This is Tammy.
Oh, you. Yeah, you, Tammy.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I saw your hand go up, so I just called on you. By the way, I'm seeing some comments that the audio is stuttering. Is anybody else experiencing that a little bit? Is there an issue with audio? Okay. All right. Go for it, Tammy.
Okay. Well, I kind of during the lecture you showed the wheel and you said what do you see first? I saw joy and playfulness, and so I started thinking about that. And when I was going through my cancer treatment, everything in my family, in my life, revolved around me, and there was a great joy to that and a great groundedness to that. There's the root. And I realized that so much of my life has been giving to others. This was a time when I needed others to give to me, and they gave unselflessly to me. But now that I'm in this phase of transformation, I notice old patterns falling back. And so rather than saying it's about the other people, I said, what I want is a balance of service and that joy and playfulness. And so that's a revelation I've had. And I realized it's not about them. It's about me setting the pace for me. So as I go into the fire, it's almost like an extension of flow. That yellow watermelon was really symbolic for me when I cut it open expecting it to be red, and it was yellow, and you said that's flow meets fire. And I'm having all these thoughts with joy and playfulness, and I'm going, this is just further the universe telling me to intuit more playfulness and more joy, and to look for that balance within myself. of not being so giving, maybe taking more. And so we went out. I've been wanting to go to the beach. My husband doesn't like the beach. But so this morning we went out and bought beach chairs. And we're making a plan to go. Now I live near beach, so I can take day trips to the beach. But that to me is joy. And he likes, if we go to the beach, he likes to walk. I want to sit and read a book. So I said what I wanted, and he said, and you will have it. So I think some of it with the fire for me is going to be asking for what I want and not overdoing. The second thing is I've had a real revelation with my exercise program. I tend to want to overdo, and I'm learning that less is more. This month I've chosen an animal. It's the turtle. We have a box turtle who's yellow, and he's even got a yellow cast to his little head. And he's about being slow and steady. They move faster than you think. They're not as slow. I tend to want to jackrabbit my exercise. And so that's probably my second thing as I go into the fire, to ask this tortoise, who every time I talk to it sweetly, and my husband will say, look, he's turning his head toward you, and he's looking at you. And occasionally he actually comes toward me before he goes elsewhere. And I'm talking, telling him I mean him, him or her, no harm. And my husband said, one day he's just going to walk right up to you instead of turning off and hurrying along. But that's probably the other revelation for me. And I am in a kind of a structured exercise program. I'm okay with the speed of everyone else. And so I'm this balance. I want my fire. I just kind of, I want it. I don't know what the word for. I did know earlier, but it's the balance through the fire.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And to use fire as, if we were to imagine it like a tool of transformation, imagining whatever is no longer needed to be tossed into that fire, right?
Exactly.
In order to bring balance. Yeah. Tammy, two things that you said, a number of things. Thank you for the turtle. I really like that symbology. Two things that you said really spoke to me in the way of us talking about confidence this week. I want us all to be thinking about, what does confidence look like? Who models confidence for us? Because I think it's one of those words, again, that it probably means different things to different people, and all of us would have a different lens into what confidence means for us and what it looks like. And two things that you said that I feel fall into the bucket of confidence would be asking for what I want and not overdoing. Being confident of reading body, reading balance within, and knowing how to act from that place. But there can be a lot of things that go into confidence. Good. Wonderful. Well, let's do this activity. Thank you, Tracy, Trish, and Tammy, the 3 T's. I love alliteration, for checking in with us on what is happening, because I bet that all of us in some way can relate to what was said by everybody. Maybe even one little thing, right? It's kind of sparks something in us. That's a key word for the fire. What sparks? What inspires? What I want you to keep that word transform. Because you're always changing. If we take the concept of creativity from the flow, it becomes transformation in the fire, but it's essentially the same principle. We as beings are always reforming, reshaping. And when we get into the fire, it's more about our mind, reshaping our thoughts. And whereas with the flow, it's about reshaping our emotions. And with the root, it's about reshaping our body. So we're going to be doing more with thoughts, mind, and many people out there would say that before manifestation, before we get to the root, what precedes that is really thought. And then we speak out the thought, we create more vibration, more energy towards that thought. But so much of who we are and what we've become has been designed through the thoughts that we've been thinking. All right. So let's do, and I know that this is on your docket for this week, but I think it's powerful. I just recently did this in a group setting, and it was very powerful for people to see other people's things, what were going on for them. So what we're going to do, so if you have just like I just have a little notepad here, you have something next to you. What I'd like you to do is to have that piece of paper, and on one side, put a plus, and then on the other side, put a minus, and then draw a line down the middle, or just fold the piece of paper in half, just so you have a crease. You have a natural division between the two columns. Okay. So one of the key words for this week is the word energy. And energy is kind of like saying love when we get into the heart chakra. It means a lot of things to a lot of people. So we're going to whittle into energy. You know, how does energy look in our bodies? Are we alive, alert, aware? How does it look in our mind? We don't have brain fog. We have clarity. We have concentration. We have the ability to focus, right? Energy within our emotions, feeling the flow of the emotions, but not attaching to the emotions, right? Energy, biochemically, ATP, the energy currency that gives us all of that burst inside the cell. So what I want you to think about here is more of a emotional, mental feeling of energy in your life. And we're going to do a timed exercise on all the things that give you energy. And I want you to think about it in those terms. What gives me body energy? What gives me emotional energy? What gives me mental energy? You can just wrap it. Don't think too much about it, right? I want you just to think like, what gives me energy? How do I perceive energy within my being? How do I know it's there when I've got it? Because so many people, I think the number one symptom that I see clinically in people is fatigue. And then I would say to them, well, what does it look like when you're energized? Right? So what we're first going to do is get a sense of what energizes us. And I'm going to time us for 3 minutes. We're in the third chakra, so I'm going to do 3 minutes. Just have to get my timer here. We are going to do a 3-minute, and I want you to do a quick download and stream of consciousness. Don't overthink this, even though we're on the mental sphere of our being. I want you to write down in that plus column for 3 minutes. I mean, this is going to be a silent activity. We're all going to be doing it. Write down quickly all the things that give you energy. It could be people, places, events, times of year, foods that you eat. No limitations here. Just the things that give you energy. So you ready, everybody? Let us start. You have 1 more minute. And stop. Okay, now scan your list and count up the number of items and put that at the very bottom of the column. So just tally them up, just count them. Okay. So now we're going to go to the other side and do exactly the same thing, but this time we're going to spend 3 minutes really being in the space of trying to figure out what takes our energy. What do we feel depleted by? Do we feel depleted by certain people, doing certain things? What takes our body energy? What takes our emotional energy? And what takes our mental energy? It could be working on a project, a mental, like Jane and doing her PhD, or, what makes you, after you do it, it's like you just have to relax because you're so tired. You've got to go take a nap or rest. So it's not negative per se. Just think of it as it takes energy currency from you. It could be your children, it could be your grandchildren, it could be your spouse, your partner. Just go with your intuition here. Like, try not again to overthink it. And let's do the same thing there. So you ready? Here we go and start. One more minute. Okay, stop. And if you can do the same thing on this side, go through and just count up, tally the number of items in this column. Okay, now I'd like you to look at the comparison to see which column has the greater number of items. Is it the plus or is it the minus? So when Tammy says, I want to be in balance, one of the ways to know about balance is to actually do an inventory. What we just did is we just did an inventory on whether or not your energy is balanced just by nature of the things that give you energy and take away your energy. So number one, just look at the overall, how many you have for each. And then I want you to bring flow into it and feel out. The question number two is, was this difficult for me to think of things that give me energy? Was it difficult for me to think of things that took away energy? So just think of that for a second. Just feel that out. And then on the plus side, third thing, I want you to scan this list and I want you to put a star by the things that you do every week. Not even every day, just every week. Just put a star by the things that you're doing every week. So scan the list, because some things you may not be doing every week, but they still inspire you and they give you energy. So what are the things that you're doing every week? Put a star there. And then count up your stars. How many stars do you have? And put that number just right below the total number or somewhere where you know where that number is. And then go over onto your minus side and put a check mark by the things that you're doing every week. So just scan the list and say, okay, I'm going to meetings every day, check. I'm in traffic every day, check. You know, what are the things you're doing every day? And then add those up. Okay, so let me ask you, Who would like to comment on just the absolute quantity, the sheer quantity of columns? Were they in balance? Did you have one that was longer than the other? Was it difficult to do either side? Tracy, I think your hand went up, and then Jane, and then Barbie.
Well, I have two comments on that. The pluses made a definite. They were way higher. And it was funny. It made me giggle. I was exactly half on the stars. But then on the minuses, and I don't know if it's just what I'm doing right now, it was a much shorter list. But this was my question, but they seem so much bigger.
Can you give an example?
Abandonment.
Okay. So you mean, bigger issues, okay, that's okay. That's
yeah.
okay. Uh-huh. And did you put a check mark by that?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That's what matters, is to see like where you feel like you're spending time every week.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But I mean, more than anything, it just, and just as I'm thinking of it, it made me think I'm taking the plus side with, I think I just answered my own question. I'm not giving the plus side enough credit. So I'm making more, I'm making these bigger. So there you go. I answered my own question.
I'm actually glad that you saw that, because I had somebody recently do this activity who was very stressed, extremely stressed. And then when she finished, she said, oh my goodness, my pluses are almost double my minuses. What am I complaining? Like, she didn't have the perspective of seeing that. So you've got some big things that are also on your plus side.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Can you just tell us real quick, how did your stars versus the check marks match up in terms of their ratio?
Almost the same. I had 22 pluses with 11 stars, and I had 9 minuses and 4 check marks. So it was half.
So, but you have 11 things every week that are giving you energy versus the 4 things that are taking your energy away every week. Mm-hmm. But there might be some things that are more big and pervasive and part of thought patterns that are always there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe they just feel bigger right now because of the work I'm doing, but it was kind of funny to be talking and have that aha.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Thank you. Thanks, Tracy.
Thank you.
Jane, you had your hand up next.
Okay. Thank you. So I had 22 on the giving energy and 25 on the taking away. And I had 9 stars in the giving and 25 stars on the taking away. So everything on the taking away list, I'm doing every week. And when I look at that list, it's like, these are the things that I've been doing for years and years and years and years and years. And I think what I'm finding so hard, and I think this was some of what I was saying in the flow, is just finding that whatever it is that I need to find to unlock some of this and shift this across. Because when I did the stressing questionnaire yesterday, I had 144 out of 200. So that was quite shocking as well. And I haven't been through the activity sheet that goes with it yet. I haven't had the chance yet to do that. So, and I also found something the other day from 2017 that had the similar list in it. Not the same exercise, but another sort of exercise of the same kind of thing. So it's like, I just have to find this way to move from one to the other. And what I really struck me right at the beginning of the video was this, the conference, sorry, was this idea of transformation. And I actually think that that's where I'm at now, is I need to actually transform this in quite a big way. I don't think it's quite enough to chip away at the edges. I think it's about actually making some total sort of circle kind of changes, which is slowly where I think I'm going in this whole 3 months so far that we've done, or the 2 months that we've done so far. But that's quite shocking to see that everything that it takes away my energy And I know these things. I know them. It's not that I don't know them. I know them. I found that list really easy to write, whereas the other one was much harder to write. So I do know it, but it's trying to find that what it is that's going to make me shift. So listening to Tammy earlier on, you know, about just looking at it, asking for what you want, and just like less is more. The idea of the turtle, I really loved that idea. You know, just slow and steady gets you there, and consistent. So I've taken like masses already from the last 25 minutes. So thank you very much indeed for the prompts. Really
Excellent.
helpful.
Yeah, we are going to have an action step from all of this. So this is just the inventory. So that's good. But what I'm hearing from you, Jane, is you might be in for a bigger transformation. That sometimes those type of superhero or heroine moments, we're just ready. And Trish seems like she's headed in that direction as well. It feels like, again, that phoenix rising, right? Like distilling down and then being reborn and rebirthed in a different way, metaphorically.
I think that's really, really important, because I'm a bit like Trisha saying, you know, I'm in that older category too. It's not old, but it's starting to think I've got less time left than I've already had. And I don't want to keep writing this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to do the other. So I need to do some of them. So last week we actually sat down, me and my husband, we actually sat and wrote down our actual bucket list. And it's like, we are not going to keep saying we'll do it next year or the next year or the next year. We're going to do some of these things like now is what we have. Now is what we have. We don't know what we have in the future. So it's all very cliche, but it's actually about taking that action. So I think that's really important. Thank you.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. So let me just speak to this bucket list concept. Another thing that I have found is that we need to constantly see things and to have that in our sphere and see that. You know, we can write a bucket list and then go put it in a journal and we don't see it. One of the things that one of my mentors had encouraged me to do was to create the yellow altar, if you will, of transformation. So I have not just, when we were doing the root, I mentioned to you that I have an ancestor altar, if you will, with prayer cards from my deceased elders and relatives and people that I didn't even know. I have everything is red on that place. It's just on a table. And then my yellow transformation spot is everything that I see for myself in terms of vision, my work in the world, my mission, what I'm about, and where I see, you know, again, a catalyst. And so usually when I wake up, I have a candle on both of those places. And so having the intention, so even the act of going to light the candle, a little tea light, and setting fire to those individual things. So if it's your bucket list, having those things on your bucket list written out, printed out on your spot where you've got intention that is set. That's why even in meditation and yoga practices, they talk about having the same yoga mat, even in intentional eating, having the same bowl that you're concentrating and eating from every time in order to create momentum, right? And so we're constantly putting our energy into something. So I think we're still on the physical chakras. We are not in the non-physical yet. And so these, for the realization of each of them, they need something physical. So when Tammy talks about a turtle, awesome. We need to see these things in order for them to be manifest. So think about that for all of yourselves. I just pulled something off my fire transformation spot. This is St. Bridget, who I really resonate with. And so, you know, she is kind of a fire goddess, St. Bridget's fire. She's an Irish Christian saint, but also recognized as kind of a goddess, you know, red fiery hair. So this is just an example of one thing I have on my fire altar that I call it an altar. Altar to me, even though it has a religious connotation, it also feels like a place of rotting and ripening. An altar is sacrificial. We bring in fire to it. There is transformation that occurs on an altar. So I use it more metaphorically, a bit removed from the religious connotation. And even thinking of the stomach, you know, the hara, you know, even above the hara a bit, but, you know, the seat of rotting and ripening. What are we transforming through food? And really feeling this, seeing this, manifesting it. So anyway, thank you, Jan, for mentioning Jane for mentioning so much of the aspect of, you know, bucket list and what we're creating through our intention. Barbie, would you like to share yours?
Okay, I'm here. All right, so first of all, I gotta say, Tracy and Jane, you are journalists. I am not a journaler, and to write down, I have way less than used to. So that's one thing I need to work on is journaling. And thinking, sitting quietly and taking that time. So on my plus, I had 12, and on my minuses, I have 8. And on the stars on the plus, I had 8. And then on my minuses, I had 6. And so what came up on actually both sides is food and food choices. I had just recently taken a gut test with volume, and it came back, and now they're actually redoing some of that, so it came even way back. But anyhow, coffee was number 1 on my plus list, and that is one that had to come out on my gut test. And so I'm struggling with that, and so the other was protein fermentation. That was the other thing that was bad. So that, it's my gut. So it really goes down to my gut, and really bad, I'm not so bad, so that's the word bad. And so I know that, and so it's transformation. I know that's a word, but I need to really look at, and I do have tea. It's my little tea tag. So I'm really trying it. It's difficult when you've been doing something for 57 years. Well, I probably haven't quite 57 years, but 40 years, a good 40 years of drinking coffee. And I like it. It makes me happy. I don't drink too much. I'm down to 1 cup. But yeah, so when I look at both sides, I have to say that I need to balance and look into my foods and be happier journey with my food choices. I don't want to have to think all the time that I can't have that. It takes my joy away.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's where I'm at.
Yeah, and so when we get into week 3, we will definitely delve into that, because I think that that's what happens is analysis paralysis.
Mm-hmm.
So we get into that mode where now we're overthinking as we're eating, and in Chinese medicine, they would say that that's one and the same. And so if you have overthinking when you're eating, you're impairing digestion. That would be something for us to all be looking at this month, is really to be paying attention to what are we doing when we're transforming through food? Are we using up some of our energy in our thinking rather than directing that energy into biotransformation? And sometimes we need a little bit of stillness for that.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting that you had food choices. So that's, but you were still very balanced, Barbie. You had 12 and 8 and 8 and 6. So that's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that the difficult is the food, because I've tried all different kind of diets. I'm back to the Mediterranean diet. But then when you look at, this new testing, and you're taking some things out that were fun foods, enjoyable foods, but they're not really good for the gut microbiome. You just go like, well, I got to do something because I don't feel the confidence, the courage, the things that I used to have. I feel kind of like Trish, Trish says, way to go. And I'm behind Trish, I'm 57. So it's like, I know it's still there. So.
Yes. Thank you. It seems like we're seeing, isn't it interesting? Thank you, Barbie.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Tracy, for all sharing. What's really beautiful is that we come together as a group. Some of us don't even know each other, and then we find that we have such similar patterns. Even if we're not the same age, there are just similar things that crop up for us, or certain things that we speak about. So what I'd like to do in our close here is for you to have a little bit of fire behind this activity. So it's not just static and on paper and you got your numbers, that appeases the mind and our thoughts, but now we have to use a little bit of inspiration and action towards this. And so what I would say to you is let's look at the positive column, like the one with the plus sign, just what gives us energy. And I want you to scan the list for when don't just disregard the stars or no stars. Just look at the list, and as you scan the list slowly, go with your feeling. Like, what are the things that you actually feel a somatic response to? Like, as you look at the words, you feel a little bit more towards. So just do that quickly. And again, this is not an overthinking thing. It's an over feeling thing. We're bringing the flow into your fire. So scan, and the things that you get, you know, if they're just 3 things or less that you get strong feelings on, just kind of circle them. And if you're done with the plus side, you can move over to the minus side, and I want you to go through those and quickly scan and see where you get the biggest dip. Where do you feel like, ooh, like the biggest downgrade in your energy as you scan that? Circle those, just a couple of them, no more than 3. You know, so often the fire part of us, the mental body of us, we want to disregard the emotion in the soma, the body. I watched, what was it, Captain Marvel on the plane yesterday, and it was all about control. She had to control her emotions in order to wield her power. She had a powerful hand. And the superhero archetype is very fire connected, right? So when we think of all of these hero and superhero movies, and I would say to this, the end of the movie for me was that she reconciled and balanced her emotion and her ability to control her emotion. She let her emotion out in ways that were healthy for her. And so we always want to bring back the emotion and not say we have to just sieve it through our mental body, but to make our emotions and our mental bodies work together. So that's why I'm having you scan and really feel out what has an emotional connection or somatic feel, a root connection to you. And I want you to do this for yourself. I want you to figure out, what can you do of these 6 or so items, of the plus ones, which ones can you amplify or bring in? And which ones on the minus side can you don't have to just cut the cord completely, but which one can you let go of just a little bit? And make it super simple. Just pick one of either. So it's like a grocery list. If you can't get everything at the grocery store and you can just pick one of the plus to amplify. Some people like the theory, they call this crowding out, and it can be applied to food. So instead of telling people what not to eat, just focus on what they can eat and create happiness around that. Crowd out. Or you could say, no, I've got some of these big ones on the minus side, and I really want to work on one. You know, the word for fire is also work, you know, and it's all of its permutations. So maybe you say, you know, that's going to be on my radar. That's going to be my target. That's where my arrow is going. That's where my fire is going to go this month. So if you can incorporate that into your intention for this month as we move through the fire, and if you are working with a partner, we have about 8 to 10 of you working with partners. If you can constantly come back to this list, because this is truly kind of a gauge of where you're at with your fire, and then proactively moving into taking one of those things and saying, I'm going to increase or decrease it. All right. Any final comment? Let's just do a quick, if everybody just can just say the first word that comes to them from our connection today, and this won't take long. Just say one word, the first word that comes to you, and anybody can unmute at any time.
Gratitude.
Gratitude. Thanks, Trish.
Joy.
Fire.
Joy, fire.
Health.
Mind.
Mind. Was it health or health?
Health.
Okay, health. Yes. Sending you health, Tracy. Fantastic. All right.
Energy.
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 Okay. And what I would hope for all of you is that in some way you dedicate in your physical space some space for fire. Whether you light a tea light, you have pictures of things that inspire you, keep the flame alive as it relates to fire. Let's see fire in the most beautiful, good, true, and beautiful way that we can, because there is something really beautiful about it. And we can harness that light, even in those shadow times. Thanks, everybody. This has been lovely. Thank you so much for everybody that has shared. And if you haven't shared, I know that you've been present, and that in and of itself is very healing for the whole group. And thanks to everybody who is on the chat and not able to, for some reason or another, be visible. But Carol was chiming in here. Markel was talking about her scores. Kelly also. Rebecca. And so I'm not sure on all of your phones and iPads and all of that how to get your video showing, but you might want to look into that for next time. Hopefully we can, because all of you have permission to do it. I made you all the co-host. Okay, lovelies, on to fire. Let's burn brightly. Thank you so much. Have a great week. Bye-bye.